Hey guys, we are so excited. It is Thursday. We're coming at you with some tips and advice and encouragement for your marriage and your blended family.
Yeah, because we just spent last weekend at XO Marriage in Dallas, and it was an amazing experience, amazing time. Some of the best speakers on marriage in the world. Pastor Jimmy Evans, Dave and Ashley Willis, Sean and Lynette Reed, Dan Leanne, Pastor Tim Ross. It was absolutely amazing. So if you haven't, or if you don't know what we're referencing, XO Marriage does marriage conferences all over the country. You can go to their website and actually check those out as well.
Yeah, and so you guys, today we just want to talk about just the community and the people that we have surrounding us that support our marriage and blended families. And you've heard us talk about this before and how having community is so important for your marriage and blended family, but having the right community. We want to be surrounding ourselves, and we have a couple of points that we want to make. So first off, we want to say, you want to surround yourself with people who love you and are for you, who love your spouse and are for your spouse, who love your marriage, are for your marriage, and who love God, most importantly.
Guys, the community that you keep is absolutely just of vital importance when it comes to the success of your marriage. And those 4 points may seem simple, but maybe you have to ask yourself, the people that you're surrounding with, do they actually meet all those requirements? Because they may love you and they may love and be for you, but they may not, really enjoy your spouse. And as a married couple, we have to put that relationship as the absolute priority. So again, in these little bitty things, are they for your marriage? And let me explain what that means. And maybe I'll explain it from a guy's perspective and then maybe from a wife's perspective. But I know I used to have friends, and you'd be around them and they would just complain about their marriage. They would complain about being married, or they would always reference things that they did when they were single. And these are just not healthy habits that married men surround themselves with. So, we have to be, as guys, we have to be careful about who we're around, what they're saying. Are they for our marriage, and are they encouraging us to behave in ways that encourage our marriage?
Yeah, and I would say from a wife's perspective, it's important for me to surround myself around other women who, like Scott said, they're not complaining about their spouse, or they're not talking bad about them. Ask yourselves a question. When you're hanging around other couples, are you leaving feeling encouraged? Are you leaving feeling like it has propelled you in your faith? Are you leaving feeling hopeful and excited? Or is it that you're leaving and you're feeling discouraged? Are you, leaving feeling, worse about your spouse, or maybe just like even more angry or resentful towards your spouse? So these are just some things that we need to be cognizant of as we're interacting with other people and inviting people into our circle. A couple of scriptures that I want to read you guys, and the great thing about the word is the word can show us what community that we need to surround ourselves with. So in Proverbs 13:20, it says, "Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm." So you guys, I think it's so important for us, again, to surround ourselves with wise, godly counsel, wise friends, people who want to speak into your marriage. It may be that you're having a rough season in your marriage. Maybe, one of the spouses is suffering with addiction. Surround yourself with people who are like, what? You may be having a hard time in the season, but we're going to come alongside you guys and help you through this, versus being around people who are like, oh, you need to, leave your spouse, or, they're saying negative things. So surround yourself with people who are going to be there with you in the hard times and uplift you, encourage you.
Well, and the one thing about this is the difference. And as odd as it may sound, sometimes being around those negative people may make you feel better temporarily, or maybe you can poke fun with each other about marriage, or poke fun about spouses, or whatever that is. But the difference between unhealthy and healthy. And the biggest way that you can tell that is when you're back around your spouse and it's just you two. Do you feel more engaged with marriage? Do you feel more engaged with your spouse? And I'm going to say something that's maybe a little bit a little sensitive. Is, can you tell your spouse what you talk about with your friends? Because if you can't, then that's not healthy. Because we all have those, I've had those friends that you're like, have those little, conversation starts, and you're like, that just didn't feel quite right, so I'm not going to tell my spouse about that conversation. And that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So if you can't say it in front of your spouse or talk about what you did in front of your spouse, then that's not a healthy relationship. And I think if you know the difference, then you can start leaning towards making those good choices. And the last thing I'll say on this, especially when it comes to unhealthy friends who don't support marriage, is if you can not tell them, like, hey, this is just not good for my marriage, and that friendship stay intact, then the answer was written. That is just not a good relationship for you to have and maintaining the health of your marriage. So if you can't have that conversation and say, hey, listen, I just can't be in that situation, or I can't say that, or I can't talk about that, or I don't want to talk about that, then it's not a great relationship.
Yeah, and I would say another point that I would like to make, make sure that you're surrounding that the friends that you're surrounding yourself with, they have the same values and morals that you do. Are they believers? Do they go out to the bar? Do they go out clubbing?
Yeah.
Those things, that wouldn't be something that we would want to associate in our marriage. So you just need to look at, what I would encourage you to do is look at, what is important to you in your marriage? What do you value? And are these people that you're surrounding yourself, are they doing the same thing? And you guys, I want to read something from Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. So if you're hanging out with couples who are not in line with what God has in line for your marriage and your family, you guys, that's a dangerous place to be in, because then we can start stepping outside of the lines. We start doing things that we've never done before. And then we're testing boundaries, and at the end of the day, it can be more destructive than good.
Well, and if you're thinking like, hey, I maybe don't have that, but I would really like that, let me talk to you for a minute. So adult couple friendships sometimes come out of awkward, forced relationships. And I'm gonna explain this. Like, you might meet a couple at church and you're like, you know what? And I know we've talked about this, like, hey, we'd love to have more coupled friends that are aligned with our marriage and aligned with our goals. And you may find those people, and as adults, sometimes it's a little bit awkward. It's like, hey, we need to be friends, let's get together. And that may...
You're awesome.
Yeah, that may be like, hey, you're my people and we need to get together. But sometimes you need to have those direct conversations and just ask those questions. Be like, hey, you guys are awesome. Let's go have dinner together. And you have to be willing, as adults, you have to be willing to sacrifice time and make that relationship a priority in order for it to flourish. So don't think it's just gonna happen organically.
Yeah.
We don't come across amazing people and foster great friendships and great relationships by accident. We have to be intentional. We have to go out and try to make those friends. So if you're at church and you're like, we don't have couple friends, well, I encourage you to go talk to more couples and go ask them to have dinner, come over to your house, go to a movie, have a kids play date, whatever it is that may connect you guys, but you have to be intentional and you have to devote that time to it.
Yeah, and the last point I would say, you guys, is just be prayerful about it. Be prayerful to the Lord about sending you people in your life who are going to be your errands, in seasons where you're, in turmoil or you're having a hard time. But see, people that are going to encourage you and uplift you, and that you can do the same with, and that you can do life with. And so, you guys, I hope that this has been of some encouragement to you today. So, again, it's just so important for us to surround ourselves with great community, with great friendships. And like we were talking about, maybe sit down with your spouse tonight and assess some of the relationships that you have. Ask yourself those questions, like, are you leaving more encouraged from being with these friends, or are you leaving discouraged? And maybe just being prayerful about, okay, Lord, what relationships do you want in our life right now, and which ones do you not?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Be blessed in all that you do. We love you.